Awesome. So welcome everybody to today's group coaching webinar, and it's all about want growth. I think most of us who are in this real estate business and creating a life by design do want more growth. So today I wanted to go over with you some of the tips and tricks I have found when I start going down a growth path, some of the questions that I need to ask myself and I need to consider. What I found in the past is sometimes I go head over heels over an opportunity or another growth opportunity in another location, and all of a sudden I look up and it's not quite what I thought it would be because I didn't think all the way through it. So here are my top 10 things that you need to think through when you're considering a growth opportunity. So first of all, let's think about this. Most of us probably, well, let me go back 15 years, 20 years. What I consider an opportunity 15 years ago is very different than what I would consider an opportunity today. Why is that? I was in a different place in my journey. So when I first got into real estate 37 years ago, when I saw an opportunity, if it helped me get rid of some of my costs or maybe zero-based something that I wanted to do, I saw that as a positive and I typically went forward. I've learned over time that not all opportunities are equal. And so what might have gotten me excited when I first got into the business by just being able to reduce my costs, today it would look different. And probably 15, 20 years ago, if I could find a business opportunity that matched up with real estate, or maybe I was just going to grow another farm, geographic farm, and make maybe $30,000 or $40,000 a year more, that probably was very interesting to me. Today, my bar is a little bit higher. It doesn't mean that I won't do some opportunities that are less than a certain amount, but I have to consider other things. How much of my time will this take? How much of my influence will I need to use? And how much of my capital will I need to use? Plus, there's 7 other things we need to consider. So what I want you to think about is, do you have what you would say is your minimum requirement for new business income? Meaning it has to meet this certain bar or you might pass on it. Think of these things that I'm going to go over with you as filters. They're a way to filter an opportunity to see whether or not you should move forward or not. If you have questions, make sure you type them in the chat box. Peters and Tegan are going to be helping me make sure we get your questions answered. So clarity around this makes sense, and those filters are put in place to eliminate our bias, because sometimes we do have bias, especially if we're super passionate about something. So what dangers exist? What obstacles do we have to overcome? So I always think about, is this a business that has a lot of competition or a lot of obstacles that we have to overcome? And do I have someone to run it? If this wasn't going to work out, why wouldn't it work out, and what would that mean to me? So I kind of think a little bit of a black hat. So the question number 2 is, what dangers or challenges exist with this business? How risky is it? How many obstacles will I have to overcome? How many competitors are there out there? Or just some of the criteria. And I think sometimes in the past I've used the example of a sign business. So if I was going to get into a sign business, which might zero base having to have my signs all put up, that might be interesting as long as, number 1, I didn't have to put a bunch of my time into it. Number 2, that I don't have to use a lot of my influence. So basically my capital and finding someone who will run my sign company, it might be very worth it to zero base all of my signs, meaning I don't have to pay anything. So what might the obstacles be? Well, what if all of a sudden, like right now, there's low inventory? So not very many people are putting up signs. They go up and just as fast come down. So there might be obstacles that get in the way. So why might not it work out? So I always think about what dangers and challenges exist. The third and very important thing to me is, who's going to be the jockey? Who's going to be the driver, if you will? Is he or she the right fit? And if they are the right fit, how challenging is it? Meaning, if I don't already have someone in mind, how challenging will it be for me to go find someone to run this company for me? Who's going to be the driver? Well, if there's not a driver, that means it's going to be me. and that means a lot of my time. So we're getting back to the time question. Right now, I'm willing to use my influence and my capital, but I don't want to use a lot of my time because my plate is already very full. So I'm always going to default, number one, to the who. When I'm thinking about an opportunity, growing into the next geographic farm, going into business with another expansion partner, adding another line of business to my real estate company, I'm always going to ask myself first, do I have the who? If I don't have the who, and I'm already out of capacity, there's probably no amount of money that's going to interest me in doing it. So that's really important to me. The other thing is that's going to be super important to me is how many more people are going to be in my world as a result of this business? Is it going to be 30? Is it going to be 300? Is it going to be 3? So I'm always measuring and filtering how passionate am I about this? How much time is it going to take? How much influence will I need to exert? How much capital do I need to spend? Do I have the right who? So number one for me is always going to be the default to the right who. And secondly, how complex is it? Is this a complex business or is it a fairly simple business? Complex businesses always add a lot of noise to your life. So to me, I want to know how many people are going to be involved, because when you have a super complex business, there's more people involved. And again, I don't know about you, Peter, but if you said to me, I'll write you a $3 million check to do this very complex business that's going to take a lot of your time, I'd say, Peter, let's get on a plane. However, if you said to me, this very complex business that's going to take a lot of my time and a lot of my capital and influence, we're only going to make 50,000, I'd probably say no. So all those things. And so these are just filters for you to consider when you're looking at a growth opportunity. We have so many opportunities in real estate. We have opportunities to own market centers, to own mega agent offices, to be OPs, to be mega agents, plus all the other things that go along with it. So I always ask myself, what am I bringing to the table? For this opportunity, am I bringing my time, my influence, or my capital? And I always ask myself, how do I feel about that? Because when I was younger, I was willing to put in all the time that it took because I had no capital and I had no influence. And I knew one thing, I would outwork everybody. So I was willing to put in as much time as it took while I gained influence, while I gained relationships over time. So today, with now that I have more influence and more capital, and I'm probably not interested in putting a ton of my time in something. So I'm looking to leverage that with the right who. So if you bring me an opportunity and it's the right who, all of a sudden my passion goes back up. If I don't have a who, my passion goes back down. I always ask myself this question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited am I about this project? And I cannot choose 7. So if I can't choose 7, that means I'm either a 6 or lower, or I'm an 8 or above. And even if I'm a 6 or maybe a 5, if it's not going to take that much of my time, and it's in alignment with the businesses I already have, and it's all it's going to take is maybe some of my capital and some of my influence, I still might do it, only if I'm passionate, maybe a 5 or 6 about it. So again, I use these things just to help me filter through the opportunity to see, is this something I want to do or not?
And Kristan, can I ask you a quick question about that I think a fair bit of people might have? Why not 7? Why can't you be 7 about an opportunity?
Because most of us will pick 7. Like if we say, give me a number 1 through 5, how passionate you are. Most of us will say a 4. So we're not, unless we're really, really super passionate. So I try to eliminate the number that puts you in the middle of the road. Are you in it or are you not? It's okay if you're not, because sometimes all someone needs is your influence and your capital, and they'll run with the ball. So that's a great question.
What I'm hearing is you're saying that it forces you to make a decision, yes or no, by eliminating 7.
It's one of the filters. It's not the determining filter.
Okay.
Because you have to filter all 10 of these things at the same time, meaning even if it's a 5, if it's not going to require any of my time and it's going to make money and I have the right who, and it's not going to require any time, and yet all you need is my influence and capital, I'm probably in, even though I wouldn't, be excited about it myself personally. And you and I have talked about this one, especially with some of the projects that you're interested in, and that is number 7, how loud will this business be and how much noise will it create in my world? So you think, what do you mean how much noise? And I've used the example before, a property management company. Property management company is a very loud business, meaning there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of things that have to be done correctly. I don't want to be called at 10 o'clock at night because there's a leak in the bathroom and the apartment's flooding. So the louder the business is, the less likely that I will be to move forward with it, unless I have at least 2 or 3 people between me and getting that primary job. So even if I have the right person to run it, I'm still probably not going to do it if it's super loud, if it's super loud business, unless I've got at least 1 or 2 people that could step in between me and getting that job back. So I think how loud it is something to consider, because typically the louder the business is, the more complex it is. The more complex it is, the more risk there is. So it's kind of one of those things, you'd have to pay me a lot of money to want to own a property management company. Question number 8. What is the moat of this business? Meaning, what's special about this business that makes it, a product or service that's proprietary to me? Meaning, what's the secret sauce? It's kind of like McDonald's. Their proprietary, cool thing is their French fries, right? And what they learned is how you cook the French fries and a lot of other things you do isn't the secret sauce. The secret sauce is how the potato is cured. So what's the secret sauce in this business that will help me build a moat around it that will keep other people from coming and trying to control my business? So does it have a secret sauce, or is it just a commodity? Meaning, a commodity is something that's so common, the only way to control it is by price. So I don't want that. So again, I'm looking for a business that is unique, has a secret sauce, if you will, that allows us to operate at not only a profit, but allows us to build a moat around that business that someone can't take us out of business. Because Gary says there's really only two reasons that businesses fail. It's either legal or financial, meaning we're all going to make mistakes, but do we have the financial structure to survive them? And don't do anything illegal, immoral to lose your license. So those are really the 2 things that take all businesses out of business. So I like to make sure that I go through these filters so that I'm minimizing my risk. I'm being very careful about my time because I'm a very highly scheduled person. And I'm also making sure I'm using my capital and my influence in a way that can bring a bigger return for all the people that I'm working with.
And Kristan,
yeah,
I have a question here really quickly on that, because I think that's interesting. This, like how McDonald's cures the fries. It's a great example of a moat around the McDonald's business. Do any examples? Real estate may seem at first like everyone needs to buy a house. All real estate agents provide the same service. Without further, depth, and if you didn't know much about it, or if you're new in the business, or maybe you're an experienced agent and you just view the real estate industry that way. Do you have examples, or are there things at KCN, or do you know teams around the country that have done a really good job building this, moat around their business with some sort of unique thing that they do that not everyone else does?
Well, I think sometimes when you can build maybe an ancillary business that is subscription based, subscription based is a great way to build a moat around your business, and also to build a really big business. The other things I can think of is specializing, for instance, maybe in a very special segment of the commercial market or of the luxury market. So specializing also typically helps you build a moat around your business because you become known for that. So those are some of the ways, specialization will certainly help you build a moat around your business. Also having, I think, the financial capacity to expand and do things when other people can't. I always look at Gary always says that when the market shifts and it's maybe at its lowest is the greatest opportunity for business people to build wealth and to build their businesses. So I'm always setting aside money for that rainy day, which in a 37-year career, I've been through 4 major shifts in the market. And when most agents are living paycheck to paycheck or commission to commission, and during a downward shift in the market, a lot of people can't survive it. So I would always want to make sure I put our company in a position to survive it. And over time, that again, I became almost a safe harbor for a lot of real estate agents. So that also builds a moat around my business, because typically when the market goes down, our business goes up. And I think that's partially why, is because we take territory during down markets, both in adding agents to our KCN world and also selling more property. We just become very strategic about finding opportunities no one else is paying attention to.
So to sum it up, what I heard is, 1, specialization is a very key way to build a moat. And then 2, it sounds like being prepared and knowing that the market will shift. And when it shifts, there's going to be people that aren't prepared, and your preparedness is your moat in a sense, and you can then take territory.
That's very true. Most people want to prepare when the opportunity shows up, and that's way too late. So being prepared ahead of time. Number 9 on my list is there a lot of travel involved? I traveled a lot before COVID, and now that I haven't had to travel, it's going to take a lot to get me on a plane. So for me, if there's travel involved, and there's a big opportunity, I might get on the plane. If there's travel involved and the opportunity is small, I'm probably going to pass, because my time has become more valuable to me, especially if I have to go across time zones. So I think you need to consider travel as well. I think, the last year that I was traveling extensively, I traveled over 270,000 air miles, actual air miles. That's a lot of time in the air. So for me, travel. And number 10, you kind of already hit, Peter, and that is, do I already have existing businesses that will provide customers for this new opportunity? Meaning, can I borrow out of my database over here to help the new business over here? So are there, are we aligned such that we can use resources, synergies, efficiencies, databases that can be leveraged for this other business? So I think that's also something to really consider. And then probably 2 more things. Number 1, is this going to provide more opportunity for the people in my world that I love and care about? Number 2 is, at any point in time, is this a business that if I had to, I could step in? Because if I can't step in, then I'm vulnerable. And I think, leveraging your database, when I can leverage my database for other businesses, I mean, Peter, you actually got to see that this year when we stood up a new business, and we got to leverage our database from one business to the other. So I think those are all synergies that bring alignment. So I'm always looking for alignment. I'm looking for alignment in that, does this work in my world? Are there synergies between it? Will it help my leadership and my leaders, get where they want to go? Is it going to be noisy in my world? Is it going to take a lot of my time? Am I going to have to travel? And what's the upside? 3 to 5 years from now, what's the upside to this business? So those are things that I think are super important when I'm looking at filtering through the opportunities that come my way. Do they make sense? Is this something I want to do? But it always, Peter, and it's this way in all businesses, it always comes down to making sure you've got the right who involved. If you've got the right who, then my excitement level goes back up. if that makes sense.
And can I ask you something about that?
Yeah.
The right who, that's it sounds so nice. Like I'm gonna find this rock star, they're gonna help me launch this new opportunity. But I've heard the stories, I'm sure you have as well, where I thought I had the right person and they weren't the right person. Like how do you know whether or not somebody is the right person to help you achieve a goal and maybe something that's a new venture, right? Even if it's really closely associated to your core real estate business, like let's say a lending company. How do you where do you get that trust to rely on somebody for such a big risk?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think early on, that's very difficult because you haven't built the relationships over a lot of time. For me today, that's a lot easier because most people that I'm involved with, I've known for a long time, meaning I didn't get into business with them year one, it might be year 10, it might be year 7, it might, but I know them. So without knowing them, the first thing is is always, do our values line up? And so the career visioning process really helps with that because it helps you see what they value by their life story, by what they've lived and what they've done. It also helps you to see what's important to them about moving forward. So what motivates them, what's important to them when you do the motivational piece. So I think taking them through career visioning very quickly, you'll know whether or not your values line up. Then the second thing is just natural behavior. Do they have the natural behavior to do this job? And secondly, have they done this job before? And if they haven't done this job before, have they done it in another industry? For instance, sales. Have they had a sales job before? So I think it's much easier the longer you've been in business because you have a lot more relationships. And I always tease people, but it's true. I keep all the talented people that I know on a list on my phone so that when I'm looking at an opportunity, I can scroll through that list and see who might be a good fit. And it also, over time, as you are involved in other businesses, you also can see that you can borrow your leverage. So there's times that I have to borrow leverage or my team or leaders from one organization to help a different organization. So I think that obviously I have the luxury of having been doing this a long time, and so I know a lot of people. But early on, and trusting the process, just trusting that career visioning process. And you're never going to 100% know, but the career visioning process certainly helps you get a whole lot closer to a success story than not. It's not a guarantee, but it's a whole lot better than just winging it.
So what I'm hearing you say, and I think there was a big insight for me there. In your 37-year career, you've been building relationships, and regardless of whether or not that person is somebody you're going to hire or you could get something out of it, and that comes back around 37 years later, maybe, when you do now need somebody to work with and somebody that you trust. And so really what I'm hearing is preparation is a huge piece to finding empire builders.
And it's a huge piece in any business. I mean, we're going to launch Scale Your Business to Expand June the 2nd. And that class is all about all the foundational pieces you put in so that over time, your success is almost a given. And so there's a lot of things that you can do to minimize your risk, to prepare, preparing to succeed. That seems funny, but it's so true. Preparing for growth, preparing to succeed. What are the things that if you put them in place in the front end, you don't have to worry about winning on the back end or succeeding on the back end? So just knowing how those building blocks look and understanding that it's not a straight line. It's growth and then fix things, and then growth and then fix things. But I think walking through that process of actually how you build the foundation of any business, but in particular business and real estate, there is a natural growth process that if you follow it, if you prepare in advance of the opportunities showing up, then your chance of success are much higher. And other talented people want to be involved with other talented people too. So the more successful you become a magnet for opportunity, really. And then you get back to the place where, Peter, you've got to have a guide to go by to figure out how do you evaluate these opportunities. And the two biggest ones for me is, do I have the who, and how much of my time is this going to take? Those are big ones for me. So anything in the chat box, or could we type in the chat box if they want to take that class this summer? It's once a week for 8 weeks, which allows you to build it while we go along.
Yes, so we're done with the chat box. And for those of you that are interested, I put the link in the chat. It's called scaleyourbusiness.co. So like .com without the M. That starts on June 2nd at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and that's a Wednesday. And it's same time every Wednesday for 8 weeks straight. So if you're interested, check that out. And I don't have anything else here in the chat box, Kristan.
Well, we are just very close to the bottom of the hour. If you do have a question for me, type it in the chat box, especially if you've got any question at all about how to evaluate different opportunities and different growth. But what I can say is that over time, these 10 questions really to consider when you think about growth, I think they will, number one, they will help you make decisions without so much emotion. They'll help you make good business decisions rather than emotional decisions because you're passionate about something. So these are kind of my quick down and dirty 10 tips to consider when you are considering a growth opportunity. So I appreciate you coming to the webinar today and listening to me about, want growth. Because growth is, if you're not growing, like Gary says, you're dying. So we all want to be moving forward. And I'm glad you've joined us for the 10 tips on how to consider opportunities to grow your business. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.